Since 1800 hours on Friday, one BR Corps has been on the move. The Blue Forces have been deployed into their defensive positions. This has been going on all weekend as the international tension increases, all part of the scenario of Exercise Lionheart. In tonight's special report, we'll be meeting some of the Blue Forces as they prepare for battle. I've been on the road this weekend, and one of the units I dropped in on was the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Green Jackets, part of 11 Brigade. After heavy rain during the night, the infantry especially faced difficulty moving over the terrain. This patrol is led by Sergeant Doc Savage.
Well, we're just going around now clearing the area that we're actually digging in to make sure there is, in fact, nobody there that could surprise us while we're digging.
Now, is this very soggy ground going to be a particular problem?
It is in some certain cases, because as they're digging down, they're actually going through mud, and it's making going quite hard.
The commanding officer of the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Green Jackets, is Colonel John Bedard. Colonel, what constraints have you encountered so far?
The major constraint has been to try and minimise the inconvenience that is caused to the local people here. As you're aware, this is not the first exercise that has happened. And to try and do that, before the exercise started, I came down here on a couple of occasions to try and talk to all the farmers so that we can put our defences into positions which are not going to inconvenience them more than is absolutely necessary.
What about damage control? Have you had any problems there as yet?
Well, not as yet. As I say, we have sighted our positions as carefully as we can. Within the battalion, I have 2 teams of assault pioneers who are not really part of the exercise, and they will just go around behind us, clearing the mud off the roads, mending fences, and any other smaller jobs that we can do ourselves. Behind that, the sappers will have to deal with it.
What sort of support can you call upon once you're in the field?
Well, in the position here, I have got artillery at direct support for me, as well as my own mortars. We have anti-tank guided missiles and also armour.
Children are always very interested in farmyards, but particularly so at the moment, because a large number of farms are being used to house tanks and equipment. Behind me here is a Chieftain tank belonging to A Squadron 3 RTR, and one of the tank commanders is Corporal Ingrams. Why was this location chosen in particular?
Well, there were 3 sort of points that we can bring out. The main one is a tactical scenario. We've got our own troops around us in various positions and villages. If we're too far away, it makes it faster contact and actually keeping in touch with them and supplying with information. We don't use the radios in this point of the battle, so therefore it's messages passed by hand. The second one is how many vehicles we've got, and you've got to look at the barn. And we've got 2 tanks, a 432 and a Ferret and a Land Rover. You can't put that in a garage. That's another point. The third point is I contact also with the battalion headquarters. We've got to really be a medium between them and our own troops on the ground.
Having spent a couple of hours with the Royal Green Jackets, I moved on to meet the commander of the 3rd Armoured Division to find out what life was like on exercise for a divisional commander. He's Major General Tony Walker, and I asked him how he'd been training his division for Lionheart, since he's got rather a reputation for springing surprises on his men.
Well, the training for this exercise is cumulative. There has been no specific training for this actual scheme. It's really the culmination of a long period of workup, starting at the lowest level, working through regimental level, onto brigade level, divisional level, and now onto corps level. I do believe it's quite true that surprise is important in 2 ways. I think that surprise, if you can inflict it, is a battle-winning factor. and I think you must always be on your guard against being surprised. So that's certainly been a part of the training.
In what way are you going to react to the Orange attack?
Well, that will depend on what Orange does, because on this exercise I don't actually know. I know in broad terms what troops he's got, and of course I know in general terms where he is. But our actions and our battle plans will depend on what targets the enemy present us with. We've made our plans in accordance with what we do know about the enemy and what we certainly know about the ground, and I think we've got it right. But it will all depend on what the enemy does to us. We'll be reacting.
As commander of your division, do you have to stay within Battle HQ here, or can you go out into the field?
I don't stay here. I come here, generally speaking, twice a day to be briefed and updated on the situation. But other than that, I like to be in a more forward headquarters, or I like to be visiting, because it's only by seeing what's going on the ground that you really get the feel of the battle.
Can you briefly take us through a day in the life of a general under battle conditions?
Well, every day is different, but the working day starts with the morning update, after which, as I say, I'll go off and either visit, or I may have to go to another conference, or I will go out on the ground to see the units, whatever the day dictates, or if battle is imminent, if an action is imminent, I'm likely to go off to my forward headquarters. Then back here in the evening for the wind-up conference, any other visits, some night visiting maybe, and then bed.
Do you allow yourself any little personal item, any little luxury item while you're here?
Well, there's one thing I like to do every day, but I don't always get the time for it, and that is I do try every day to have a crack at the Times crossword.
Lance Corporal Stevenson is a member of the Royal Pioneer Corps. What's your role in all this?
Our role is the defence for the Signal Regiment. We defend the outlying area and also the inner area. We also do outskirt patrols and just the security.
How long have you been here?
2 days now.
What about your trench? Did you dig it?
Yes,
How long have you got to spend in it?
2 hours.
So what happens after your 2 hours? You put your feet up?
No, we go on patrols, clearance patrols, and then maybe we might get half an hour at the end, sleep.
And what do you do, Signalman Lockwood?
I'm a driver of this vehicle, which is an AFV 432, a tracked vehicle.
But I happen to know that you are more than just a driver.
Yes, I do the radio shifts in this wagon. I work a VHF radio and a HF radio, as well as telephones.
And I believe that your father's involved in this exercise. What's he doing?
Yes, he's a recce officer with 7th Signal Regiment. Yes, supplying, at the moment I think he's doing admin with Corps. I'm not quite sure.
Are you likely to be in touch with him at any time?
Hopefully not, no. They'll keep away from him on this exercise. Yes.
As the Blue Forces settle into their defensive positions this weekend, thousands of reinforcements have been arriving by sea and air as part of exercise Full Flow. I've been talking to Lieutenant Colonel Chris Mutchinson about this part of exercise Lionheart.
Yes, the reinforcement phase is called exercise Full Flow, and this involves the bringing out of some 57,000 troops from the United Kingdom down what is called the line of communication and into the core area, ready for the core battle.
Now, how long is it all going to take before it's completed?
Well, it's going to happen in 2 phases. The first phase, which has already taken place, is to bring out the regular soldiers, and that really includes the 2nd Division from York and a number of other reinforcements. They're already now here, and the next phase is really over the coming weekend, where we bring out 35,000 members of the Territorial Army, and they've, again, come down the continental line of communication and into the core area.
And what about the soldiers who are based here in Germany? How are they involved within the reinforcements?
Well, of course, the reinforcement sounds very simple as I explain it. It's the umbilical cord from the United Kingdom down and into the core area here. But of course it's a very complicated process in which soldiers have to move by various means, air, sea, road and rail, and they've got to get to the right place with the right equipment at the right time. And that is the task of the full flow staff to make sure this happens and the soldiers arrive on time.
What civilian modes of transport have been used?
Well, to get the soldiers across the channel, we've obviously had to use commercial ferries, and we fitted in on these with a lot of normal traffic, the civilians, the holiday makers and that sort of thing. For the air, again, because of the sheer numbers, although the RAF have flown a large number of people, we've had to go to British Airways and again charter aircraft in order to get the people into Gütersloh. And if you went to Gütersloh, you see a lot of British Airways bringing soldiers in.
Over the past few days, chartered civilian aircraft, including Boeing 747s and the new 767s, have been heading for Germany from Heathrow, Gatwick, Luton, Newcastle, Manchester, Edinburgh and Belfast. Over half of them arriving here at RAF Gütersloh. Now, in wartime, of course, these aircraft would be simply requisitioned and not chartered. And then every third seat would be occupied by men's kit in order to speed up disembarkation. For Lionheart, however, this hasn't been done, since it would have required an extra 10,000 seats and cost an additional £2 million, over half the entire airlift budget. This means that most of the men's kit has been stored in the holds of the aircraft, although they have been allowed to take their weapons on board with special permission from the Civil Aviation Authority. Captain Chris Mays, you're the Air Transport Liaison Officer here, so obviously looking after all the processing of the troops through Gütersloh. Have you had any major hiccups so far?
We only have a major hiccup if there's an aircraft delay, which it's allied to the onward movement, therefore we've got to make different arrangements if we do get a delay. We haven't had too many so far.
So how's the weather been so far?
I think the weather's been great. We were expecting rain, well we got rain, but not too much.
Now obviously speed is of the essence here, that's the whole nature of the exercise. Just how quickly are you processing men through Gütersloh?
Well, soldiers being soldiers, they like to be orderly in the things they do. They're not used to being shouted at and chased around like my lads have had to do with everybody coming through here. Strange airport, strange country, strange people shouting at them. We try to keep them happy and get them out of here as quickly as possible. Our time limit is an hour for one of the big aircraft with about 400 passengers on, or half an hour for the smaller ones.
And that's from the time the aircraft lands, getting them onto the train the other end?
That's it, exactly.
Now, this weekend is your peak time as far as the exercise is concerned. So how many men are you processing each day, roughly?
About 7,000 on a 24-hour basis. So we work from morning till night till they're all gone.
So over the next 3 days, you're going to be kept fairly busy?
We won't have much time for standing around and looking at people, no.
As well as 35,000 territorial army coming out from the United Kingdom for Exercise Lionheart, there's also 4,500 reservists coming out. Now, the last time reservists were called up was Suez. We have a group of reservists with us now. One is Corporal Terry McLaughlin. Terry, how come the reservists are being called up for this exercise? Do you know?
Well, I believe it's a logistics exercise. How many numbers can be moved in such a short time?
So what are you actually going to be doing on the exercise, do you know?
Casualty replacements in battle.
So in other words...
Yeah, I'll be doing my own personal trade, which is communications for signals.
So how long ago were you in the Army regular?
6 years ago.
And what have you done in terms of Army service since then? Anything at all?
Just reserve reporting, which is 1 day a year within the UK.
Right, now as a reservist, if you're called up, must you come out?
If you're called up? Yes, you must.
And what happens if your employer says no?
You still must come up.
This report has so far concentrated on the Blue Forces and their reinforcements, but I've also been behind the enemy lines and met up with an American tank unit, part of the Orange Forces. I spoke to Colonel Ben Covington of the 1st Brigade of the 2nd US Armoured Division. Colonel Covington, can I first ask you, how long have you been here in Germany now?
We've been here for about a week, since we first flew in and picked up our equipment.
Where did you come from in the States?
Fort Hood, Texas.
And what is your exact role in Lionheart?
The role of this brigade will be to play on the Orange Force side against the British force. And I have informed my troops that although there are 100,000 British soldiers and 4,000 American soldiers, they should not become overconfident simply because we have them outnumbered.
So when you came over, I mean, how many men and how much equipment have you brought with you?
4,000 soldiers, roughly, a little less than that. We only brought about 125 vehicles and some equipment boxed up. Other than that, all the equipment we picked up here in Europe.
When you're in America, do you find that you're rather isolated because the NATO is based here? Do you feel that you're a little remote from everything?
No, we don't, in particular, because one of our brigades is forward stationed in Germany, in Garlstadt, the 2nd Armored Division forward. And we have a continuing relationship with them back and forth across the ocean.
What is the time delay for bringing reinforcements over from the States?
Well, we moved what would be, in an emergency, the equivalent of the division in 48 hours into country.
How long are you expecting to stay in this particular spot?
We'll be here for about 3 or 4 days, and then we will move into the exercise area, into our battle positions.
The British Army is well known for its resourcefulness when faced with hardship, and I met one man who had certainly used his initiative. He's Company Sergeant Major Owen Nelson of A Company, the Royal Green Jacket.
Well, this is our new secret weapon, which happened to bar off the OC this morning. We've done a lot of hoofing around since about 4 o'clock. And at the moment, I'm knackered, and I'm glad I've got this machine, actually, which I borrowed off him.
Good. OK, well, we've interrupted you, so perhaps you'd like to mount up and pedal off.
I certainly would.